continue our meeting with the awards and recognitions. Dr. Dixon.
Good evening, everyone. So we'd like to begin tonight recognitions with our Tiger team members of the month for the month of October. Our first group of honorees for the 2018 and 19 school year. So our district continually strives to create a culture of excellence. In that spirit, each month we will be recognizing employees who go above and beyond to create a culture of excellence in our district. Each honoree was nominated by a colleague, and in some cases, multiple colleagues. Each month, we receive 50 or more nominations, which are then voted upon by a committee of staff members. We have several of the chosen honorees with us tonight, so when I read your name, please come forward. And I guess we can do a round of applause when our names are called. Okay. So from Heights High, Nurse Deb Scotis. Is she here? Deb. From the Delisle Options Center, math teacher Brad Hallam. Is Brad here? From Monticello at Heights Middle School, math teacher Mustafa ITM. From Roxborough at Heights Middle School, teacher Danny Copeland. From Boulevard Elementary School, 5th grade teacher Catherine Safari. From Canterbury Elementary School, Media Ancillary Lori Wilson. From Fairfax Elementary School, 2nd grade teacher Tracy Adine. From Garrity Professional Development School, Special Ed Aide Sharna Campbell Cooper. From Noble Elementary School, 3rd grade teacher Erica Turnoff. From Oxford Elementary School, instructional coach Dejanay Lawson. From Roxborough Elementary School, interventionist specialist Judy Spanhoward. And last but not least, from the Board of Education, science instructional specialist Julie Raffay. She's not here. Congratulations to all of our honorees, and thank you for your efforts in promoting a culture of excellence in CHUH. And so we'll stand for a picture. Your turn. I know. It has to be done. Okay, so next I would like to bring up 2 members of my superintendent's cadre who will provide an update on the current events at Heights High. So are the students here? Oh, there they go in the front row. So we have junior Alasia Brooks and senior Devon Bonet. So if you both can come up, please give them a round of applause. And this is something we started last year from an idea we had from Dan. Thank you, Dan. So each month we have a Heights High student that comes and just kind of brings us information of what's happening at the Heights School. Since there's so much happening, so they're going to break down a little bit trying to give us some great information. And welcome and thank you.
Like she said, my name is Devon Benet. I'm a senior at Heights High School and also a member of MSAN. Last week we went to Boston, Massachusetts for the MSAN conference, and I got to meet a lot of people from around the country that's also in the same program or similar programs to it. We got to listen to many great speakers that talks about the state of our society, and one thing that I took away from one of the speakers is that everything that happens in this society is earned for the most part. And she, I forgot her name, but she talked about a lot about the civil rights movements and movements towards legalizing gay marriage and stuff like that. We also took the ACT down there. Well, up there, I guess. And just the atmosphere around Boston is kind of weird. They like to talk a lot about Cleveland, which makes zero sense to me. We also did an action planning, which we'll present to the board later on, sometime this month, I believe. And another thing is MSAN and the Lessons of Holocaust trip to DC is going on right now. I just got a text from one of my friends that just visited Howard University, and they got back from the African American Museum and the Holocaust Museum down there.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alasia Brooks. I'm a junior at Cleveland High. First and foremost, I want to thank Dr. Dixon for this honorable opportunity. The 3 activities I want to share with you guys today is track, the IMD, which is the instrumental music department, and gospel choir. Track, I'm a 400 and 200 runner at Cleveland Heights High. What I personally wanted to share today was that I feel like just my track team is just a handful of hardworking, committed girls, and I'm very excited for what the season may bring. I potentially feel like we can go from districts to regionals to states this year. So, thank you. And for the IMD, the part that I'm, I guess it's split up into 2 groups because I'm a trumpet player, so I play in the marching band and as well as the symphonic winds. So for the previous marching band performance we had was the performance of Thriller, which is my all-time favorite, Michael Jackson. It was really, really fun to take off the mask and then do the dance. It was really exciting. And for symphonic winds, it's just a combination of classical and modern music, where in our next concert is actually this November 16th, which I'm really, really excited for. And last but not least, the extracurricular gospel choir, which I cherish so, 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 so much. It's just a safe place that I can always come to and just like not feel judged. It's just a warm feeling. Our concert is actually the day of the Holiday House, the Holiday Open House, so anybody willing to go on December 21st at 7 o'clock are willing to go. Once again, I want to thank you all for bearing with me, and have a nice evening.
All right. Nice job. Good.
Thank you.
Just so you know, this is a gospel choir alum.
Okay.
It's time for statements from the audience. So we have a lot of things regarding kindergarten testing. We have a school bus accident. Jennifer Bartlett, would you please come and stand and, if you could, this way they can.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. A few Fridays ago, my son, who attends Communion of Saints School in Cleveland Heights here, is one of your non-public students, was riding the bus home, and apparently there was an accident on the bus where the bus struck another car. I was not informed. There were 11 kids on the bus, 8 families, and my family was the one that was not called. So I come to you as a very disappointed parent today. Something got broken, I don't know what. My son was listed on the police report as being on that bus. Fortunately, he is okay. When I called on Monday to get some more information, because this happened on a Friday afternoon and no one was there, because I did try calling, I was initially informed that all parents involved were called. And when I expressed that I was not called, then I was passed on to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith and I chatted a little bit, and the gist of it was, we somehow forgot to call you. Your son's okay. As a parent, I'm very concerned about that. There's been very little communication. I would appreciate to know that in the future there are some checks and balances in place. I don't know what the action plan is if there is an accident. I would be my understanding that somehow as things happen, parents are double checked. Did we call all the parents? Did we check all the kids? And I'm just coming to you today to ask that you guys would be more mindful of that, and if there's an action plan in place, if at some point you'd be able to share that with us as parents so we would know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to give you an update, I've had multiple conversations with the leadership at Communion of the Saints. Keep on calling them St. Anne's, and I know it comes out the wrong way. I'm sorry. I do believe that the principal's getting us another updated emergency contact list.
Will that include a phone number for the principal? Because my understanding was that there was no phone number for the school, and the school was just emailed.
I don't know the individual particulars.
Okay, it's maybe something to look at, just
Yeah,
out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think we're looking at this from a number of different directions. That is one of them.
Will there be
So-
communication for parents at some point in time? Because I've had no communication.
Yes, yes. And primarily what we're working on is to make sure that the information that Community and Saints give us is updated information. And that's what happened in this particular case. So we're putting some additional protocols in place to make sure that we are provided with all families' emergency phone numbers, your home and your cell phone. We want to make sure that we have that information. And in this particular case, we did not have all the families' information.
Okay, that's interesting, because I just, in conversations with the school district, initially in the beginning of the year when we got our postcards, my postcards came a little late, so I was calling to find out. Called transportation, they had all of my information right there at their fingertips.
Yeah. So again, we're working with Community and the Saints to make sure that they send us all the accurate information. So when we do make phone calls, we are calling the right numbers and your cell numbers and not just the home numbers.
Understandable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you at least leave us with your name, contact information so I can include you on the lists?
Absolutely. Who should I leave that with?
If you can get it to me or,
Just give it to one of yours.
yeah, any.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Tina Reynolds, I'm going to call two at a time just so we could get through this quickly. Karen Rigo.
Oh, they're going to put the two short people at the podium together. I'm really here. Well, good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Tina Reynolds. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Boulevard. Been a kindergarten teacher for over 30 years here in the district. I'm speaking tonight as a representative and in support of the Cleveland Heights University Heights kindergarten team, which is this district's early childhood group of specialists. So we're very proud and honored that we have an opportunity to share some of our expertise with you tonight. We're here to share a couple of concerns, particularly about assessment. We want to talk tonight about the number of assessments, the rigidity of the assessment, and the pacing schedule that we have been given to work with. We want to talk about the validity and quality of the assessments and the relationship to how that informs our instruction. We'd like to talk about the loss of instructional time, thank you, the loss of instructional time that we need to administer the assessments. And as you may or may not be aware, certainly for our 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds, it's often a one-on-one assessment. Certainly not something that we can hand out a packet of testing information and grab a pencil and you have 30 minutes and I'm going to sit over here and read a book. So that's a concern for us. We also want to give you a picture of what kindergarten is like, particularly at the beginning of the year, because we are a very special kind of situation, and I think that we have some special needs with our youngest scholars that we have in our district. So to give you a snapshot, in trimester 1 alone, we are mandated to give 10 assessments. One of those assessments is a state mandated assessment. It's the KRA. But of particular importance is that there are 3 sections of the KRA, and it takes approximately an hour to give all 3 sections. So one of our concerns is the amount of instructional time that we're losing as we give these assessments to our students. For many of our children, this is their first school experience. And as I've already said, our kindergartners are very, very unique. They need time to learn how to do school. And I know some of my colleagues are really going to dive into what does that look like at the beginning of the school year, because it's very different than any other grade. They need time to build stamina, and we need time to build relationships. It's unrealistic and developmentally inappropriate for these children to start instruction on the 3rd day of school. It's developmentally inappropriate to subject them to a testing schedule where we are committed to 10 in 1 semester. And the assessment should never be used as a checks and balance for teacher accountability. So we need your help to make this first and most lasting school experience a positive one. We want to ask you to direct administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by the kindergarten classroom teachers, then adopted for our use to eliminate assessment that is not appropriate for our students nor informs our instruction. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak as well. I stand here, my name is Karen Rigo. I'm the first vice president of Cleveland Heights Teachers Union, and I'm a former kindergarten teacher, and now I stand with all these kindergarten teachers tonight here and over there, and there's 16 kind of sporadically throughout the room. So there are, like I said, there are 16 kindergarten professionals that know their students, 16 kindergarten professionals who make decisions about their academic needs of their students every day. 16 kindergarten professionals are the experts and should be the ones that should be making these academic decisions. They have raised these concerns multiple times about testing through Summit, through numerous grade level meetings, and even gave up a records day to revise the pacing chart. A new timeline, however, does not relieve any of the testing stress. It just spreads it out in a different way. We live in a testing culture. Tests have been mandated by state and federal law. We need our administration to not burden our youngest tigers with even more compliance with assessments just in the name of data. Illuminate Ed is simply a tool to document data for central administration to keep track of what the teachers have assessed. The only data that should matter is what an educator gathers from the students and uses to inform instruction. This happens all day long in the form of informal assessments, checklists, questioning, and other ways that the teacher uses to gather necessary data about their students. Filling in bubble sheets, hours of one-on-one testing, online assessments that are often tedious, confusing, and don't give the teacher data that is helpful just causes more work and frustration for the students and the teachers. Kindergartners need time to play and socialize, not take tests. Please direct administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by classroom teachers, then adopted for our use to eliminate assessments that is not appropriate for our students nor inform our instruction. Thank you.
Lisa Stewart and Jen Postma, if I'm... Did I really?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm Lisa Stewart. I am a kindergarten teacher at Canterbury. This is my 16th year teaching in general, my 10th year at Canterbury, and my 7th year in kindergarten at Canterbury. I'm married to a CHUH teacher who is also a Heights alum, and I'm concerned about the direction of our school district. Our district, like most districts, we have the goal of providing an excellent education to each and every student. And an objective of our district is to make early learning education a foundation for future academic success, as laid out in the district's strategic plan. However, our foundation isn't being solidly built because of the focus on testing. Over the last 7 years, the number of assessments I am required to administer to kindergartners have increased by more than 500%. This has resulted in decreased instructional time, weakening the foundation we are trying to build. Not only do we have to give more tests, the tests are not the best tools for gathering the information of what our students have really learned. The kindergarten teaching staff have voiced these concerns with administration over the few years, but only to be told to give more tests. We are nearly penalized for not administering them on the schedule that does not allow for the implementation of the skills necessary for students to have success before the written curriculum must occur. This is an unwritten curriculum, and it is the core of kindergarten. This unwritten curriculum is ignored and has been ignored for too long. These skills of getting acclimated to being in a classroom with other children in a structured setting are unlike those of preschool or first grade. These skills must be taught before other state standards are focused on. These skills take time to acquire, and once mastered, they strengthen that early learning education foundation that we are all trying to achieve. Learning how to walk in a line, wait your turn to speak, or that thing that's next to the computer is called a mouse are all lessons that must be taught to kindergartners. Let us teach them how to hold the pencil before asking them to be assessed on writing. With the push from the Ohio Department of Education on testing in every grade level, what was once a place of curiosity, critical thinking, problem solving, and exploration has morphed kindergarten classrooms into miniature test preparation laboratories. This can change today in Cleveland Heights, though. We must allow kindergartners time to learn and not just to be assessed. We are often told that the people who touch the work know the work, so allow us to show you what works for success for all of our kindergarten students. So please, board, direct administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by classroom teachers, then adopt it for our use to eliminate assessment that is not appropriate for our students nor inform our instructions. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Dixon, President Posh, and the rest of the board members for allowing this time to speak. I am Jen Musgrave Postma, a kindergarten teacher at Roxborough Elementary, and very proud to be standing with all of you. Very proud. When I'm asked, I was thinking about this on the drive over here, when I'm asked, what do you do for a living? I respond, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I'm typically met with two responses. The first is, oh, because they think how cute that you're, walking around with all these little 4- and 5-year-olds, 25, 26 sometimes. And then the other response that I typically get is, wow. And I think they're imagining themselves trying to herd 25 and 26 little kindergartners. But I absolutely love what I do. Kindergarten is unique. It's funny, you'll hear a lot of the same words, unique, yeah. For many of our students, it is the first experience in a social setting outside of their family. In kindergarten, students begin to understand and master the script of school, the how-tos, how to line up, how to walk down the hall, how to sit on the carpet, how to cut, how to glue, how to hold a pencil. They develop a sense of community and learn how to function within one. They begin to see themselves as a learner. It is here the foundation is laid. A curiosity, a love of learning are instilled and encouraged. These necessary skills take time and care to cultivate. The time required is being impeded on by the unnecessary and excessive testing that has come our way over the last few years. I have been to kindergarten long enough to have watched the first grade curriculum morph into the kindergarten curriculum. The expectations are very high, and we demand a lot of our young learners. Assessments and the data derived from them are a critical part of measuring student progress and informing instruction. It is imperative that assessments be valid, beneficial, and developmentally appropriate. my kindergarten colleagues and I are gravely concerned about the number and types of assessments being mandated. Each new curricula adopted came with a series of assessments. According to a document created by our teachers in response to a conversation that we had about our current mandated testing, many of the assessments required do not inform our instruction and therefore are useless. Administering assessments that do not drive instruction and are given simply because they are tied to the board-adopted curriculum does not serve our students. Rather, it harms them. It takes away from valuable instructional time that could be spent reteaching, intervening, enriching, or doing collaborative projects. We love our students. We want to be accountable for our teaching and for their learning. We need to know what students have concepts they have mastered so that we can properly provide the next step. The purpose of assessment is to measure student growth. It is an opportunity for them to show what they know. We seem to be moving away from summative assessments where students are able to use higher order thinking skills to show knowledge using real world applications like IB and STEM encourage, and in favor of multiple choice. And in some cases, the students have two choices. What is the purpose? Other assessments do not give us any or all the information we need to make instructional decisions. So we give assessments on top of the mandated assessments so that we can gather the data that is useful. We want valid, developmentally appropriate, useful assessments, and inherently in that there will be less of them because we're not having to duplicate to get what it is that we actually need to help drive our instruction and ensure student success. Respectfully, please direct administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by classroom teachers, then adopted for our use to eliminate assessment that is not appropriate for our students, nor informs our instruction. Thank you.
Jen and Andrea.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the time to speak. My name is Jenny Fuji, and I have been teaching in the district for 21 years, 14 in the preschool program, and the past 7 in kindergarten. The 25th day of kindergarten this year was also conference night, and kindergarten students were already required to take or were in the process of taking 6 assessments on the 25th day of school. One was their staggered start skills assessment. The second was Dibbles. The third was their slow assessment, which was 24 questions, and it took 3 days for us to give that. The fourth was the Unit 1 math assessment. The fifth is the KRA that we have a few months to work on, but it's one-on-one. And the sixth was a Super Kids Progress 1 test. In my training, this is not developmentally appropriate. The first 6 weeks of school should be spent learning what school is, procedures, building our classroom community, and how to function socially and emotionally with others. Over the past 7 years, I've witnessed an increase in negative behaviors with kindergarten students due to frustration, less time to play, the rigidity of the school day, and too early introduction of formal curriculum. I ask that you please direct administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by classroom teachers, then adopted for our use to eliminate assessment that is not appropriate for our students nor informs our instruction. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrea Briggs. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I've been teaching in the district for 13 years. I'm also a CHUH student, went all the way from kindergarten through graduating. And I just have a true passion for teaching kindergarten and young kids. I love what I do, and as my colleagues have said, there's nothing like teaching kindergarten. It's not preschool, and it's not first grade. As Jenny said, I've taught first grade for 5 years, and I'm pulling from files from what I taught in first grade to do in kindergarten now. I've continued to watch the developmental appropriateness of what we ask kindergarten children fall to the wayside of the curriculum and the assessments. So we want to share what we want to see change in kindergarten. We would like for the first 6 weeks of school to have that crucial time that we need for kids to learn the rules, how to follow the routines, and how to build a community. We need to learn how to function in the classroom setting. Even kids who attend preschool usually are in a classroom with a small amount of kids and a greater number of teachers. We spend time learning how to listen with our whole body, work together, collaborate, solve problems, all the things that they need to eventually access the curriculum. We learn how to write our names, identify our names, the letters in our names, the letters in our friends' names. We establish our rules. We learn how to work and play together safely. We learn and practice school and classroom routines. We practice all the speaking and listening standards. All of this is a key to the child's success in the kindergarten classroom. Every year and every classroom has a wide variety of what students know and are able to do. We have kids who can read, but they don't know how to share. We have kids who don't know their name, but they've played with kids all over the place. Putting strict time frames, deadlines, and guidelines on kindergarten does not take into account the vast differences in early childhood development. We don't want to get rid of assessments. We know that we need to know what students know how to do. We're just asking that the assessments that we give really give us information about our students. We ask for board district support in administering the KRA so that we don't lose over 25 hours of instructional time giving one-on-one assessments. After the first 6 weeks of school, most of our kindergartners are ready to access the more formal district-mandated curriculum. They're more familiar with the structure of school. They've built more stamina for sitting, listening, and doing. The board-adopted curriculum assessments should be limited to mid- and end-of-year benchmarks. The kindergarten skills checklist, writing samples, and teacher-created skill-based assessments are all valid formative assessments that drive instruction and more accurately reflect student progress. I've never given a parent a Super Kids test to show them what their kids are able to do, but I have given them things that we created together that said, this is what your child knows, this is how they function in our classroom. We need to be able to spend more time working with the children and developing their sense of wonder. We need to continue to spark their curiosity and love for learning. We want to help them learn how to navigate the world around them. All of this is not a possibility with the current demands of the curriculum and assessment deadlines. 90% of the time when I look back at when the kids are frustrated, when they're bored with what I'm doing, when I'm frustrated with them, it's when I'm asking them to do something that's not developmentally appropriate, and that has to change. We respectfully ask that you please direct administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by classroom teachers, then adopted for use to eliminate assessment that's not appropriate for our students, nor inform our instruction.
We have Dan, Joan, and Lisa.
Good evening. My name is Dan Bob Etchgo, and I reside at 4097 Washington Boulevard here in University Heights. I'm here tonight to express my concern for the welfare of our district's youngest learners, our kindergartners. I come here as a resident, I come here as an outside observer, a researcher, and more importantly, a practitioner. I'm a 24-year veteran elementary school teacher in Garfield Heights, where I taught kindergarten for 8 years, second grade for 10 years, and now in my 6th year as a 5th grade language arts and social studies teacher. During my tenure, I've worked with the ODE to write the K-6 drama theater standards and model curriculum for the state. I also recently finished a 2-year appointment to the 5th grade ELA Content Advisory Committee, where I helped select reading passages and constructed comprehension questions and writing prompts for the 5th grade language arts AIR test. Also during this time, I completed my doctorate at Cleveland State University in urban education with a focus on policy and also curriculum and instruction. Especially important to tonight's discussion is my research on Northeast Ohio kindergarten teacher perceptions of standardized testing and its influence on curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Without going into great detail, I want to share with you 3 important findings from my research with kindergarten teachers. First, they feel there needs to be a commitment to collaborative education reform where they, the professionals, have a seat at the table instead of compliance with top-down reform directives. Next, they feel that all educational practices need to be student-centered rather than corporate-centered. Finally, and most importantly, they want to be facilitators of learning opportunities instead of having to be protectors of our young learners from the unintended consequences and side effects of supposed and well-intentioned educational reforms. One of the biggest perpetrators of unintended consequences and side effects is that of the push for data-driven instruction. In a recent article, Steven Singer writes about the 6 biggest pitfalls with data-driven instruction. 1, the data is unscientific. 2, it has never been proven effective. 3, it's harmful because it stereotypes learners and threatens their motivation. 4, the data doesn't capture important outside factors about learners. 5, it's dehumanizing. And finally, it's contradictory. It's not how we determine the value of students and teachers. As a member of the Heights Coalition for Public Education, the Northeast Ohio Friends of Public Education, and Diane Ravich's Network for Public Education, I have presented talks on the myth of the failing student and also what happened to kindergarten, the trickle-down effects of the 3rd grade reading guarantee. And the bottom line is that we are robbing our youngest learners of their childhood because of developmentally inappropriate curriculum and excessive testing. This community of parents and teachers puts in a lot of time cultivating good soil for learning, and we're excited to plant the seed and witness the growth of our young learners. But instead of monitoring and assessing the growth of our flowers, this excessive amount of testing can be likened to continually ripping out the whole plant just to look at the roots. Over time, this repeated act inflicts unnecessary and debilitating trauma on our young learners. As well-intentioned as this action may be in the world of education reform, this is tantamount to educational malpractice. The amount of testing imposed on these students and their teachers is a topic that needs to be addressed with a wide range of stakeholders at the table. I am here tonight to offer myself as a community resource should the board be interested in any of my research, my experience, or my expertise in this area. Dan Hines has my contact information. To end, I want to quote the great Fred Rogers. The values we care about the deepest and the movements within society that support those values command our love. When those things that we care about so deeply become endangered, we become enraged. And what a healthy thing that is. Without it, we would never stand up and speak out for what we believe. Thank you for your time tonight.
Hello, my name is Joan Spurl. I live at 3121 Berkshire Road in Cleveland Heights. I'm here in 3 different capacities. I'm here as a parent in this district. I am here as a former kindergarten teacher. I have a master's in early childhood education. I taught kindergarten for 10 years in the Chicago area in a program where the only assessments I needed to do in my very child-centered, play-based, academically enriching classroom was Marie Clay's concepts of print test and portfolio collection and incredibly intense and wonderful observations and recordings of my children's behavior. My remarks tonight are not as nicely prepared as others because I only found out about this recently, but I was so grateful to hear that these wonderful staff people are standing up and advocating around something that I've been advocating about for, well, since practically since entering the field in 1992 as a very involved member of local affiliates of the National Association for the Education of Young Children, which some of whose material I'm going to share with you tonight. I brought a few documents that I'm going to share with you. One is from the Defending the Early Years and Fair Test, and it's the fact sheet on testing in young children. I actually believe I read this at a board meeting before this board was in place, and brought it to your attention. The day that it came out, that I got it, I brought it here, because it talks about why testing is harmful to young children. And this is putting all of these professionals in a real bind, in an ethical bind. So I also brought NACY's Ethics and the Early Childhood Educator. They have a code of conduct, and what the district is asking and the state is asking of them is really encouraging them to violate their code of conduct, which is this is one of the principles. Above all, we shall not harm children. We shall not participate in practices that are emotionally damaging, physically harmful, disrespectful, degrading, dangerous, exploitative, or intimidating to children. This principle has precedence over all others in this code. That's why they're all here, and this is what they're telling you, that testing can cause stress and anxiety and undermine children's belief that school is a safe and nurturing place where they can engage in meaningful learning. When teaching focuses on testing, it may ignore or downplay children's age and stage of development, their interests, and the needs of individual differences among children. Testing may convince children that they are inadequate or dumb, especially when tested on materials that are developmentally inappropriate for their age and abilities. So I have this document. I have Defending the Early Years, and that's an organization of early childhood experts, obviously. Their position statement on standards and testing for young children that I'll share with you. But it also says, research shows that children learn best when they have hands-on learning experiences, engage in structured play, experience facts within meaningful contexts, invent their own problems to explore and solve, and share their own solutions. The current emphasis on standards and testing has led many schools to over-focus on assessment at the expense of meeting children's developmental needs and teaching meaningful content. Play and activity-based learning have been disappearing from many early childhood classrooms, and along with them, children's natural motivation and love of learning. I also brought Defending the Early Years Straight Talk about the Common Core state standards, just so you know that when those standards were developed, while I think many of them are great, more than 500 early childhood professionals signed a joint statement opposing the standards on the grounds that they would lead to long hours of direct instruction, more standardized testing, and would crowd out highly important active play-based learning. Notably, this important joint statement was not even reported in the summary of public feedback on the Common Core State Standards website. They ignored the input from early childhood educators, and the standards are developmentally inappropriate. Children's brains have not evolved in the last decade to do something that they couldn't do before. When people say kindergarten is the new first grade, that's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. And keep in mind, they've barely been on the planet. I used to tell my kindergarten parents that, just keep in mind, they've hardly been around. You're turning them off of learning rather than turning them on. You're giving them a message they're defective. Now, okay, lastly, I want to read quickly this, and then I'm here. Oh, I forgot to tell you the other way I'm here. I'm here as, I'm here as the program coordinator for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library of the Literacy Cooperative of Greater Cleveland. And that is really great because it relates to all of this. But I want to read you a quote from the Perry Preschool Project. This is the information that James Heckman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, who with other economists, made the case for investment in quality early childhood education, that for $1 you put in, you get 7 to 8 back, maybe even 13 now, they're saying. But they looked at this, and this was a seminal study, and they had three different groups of children. One was in a traditional nursery-based program, one was in the high-scope preschool program, and then another was in a direct instruction cohort. For a long time, in many areas, no statistically significant differences were found at age 15 or at age 23. However, a pattern of group differences in community behavior did emerge at age 15 and became more pronounced at age 23. At age 15, the direct instruction group reported committing 2.5 times as many acts of misconduct as the high scope group. At age 23, compared to the other curriculum groups, the direct instruction group had 3 times as many felony arrests per person, especially those involving property crimes. 47% of the direct instruction group was treated for emotional impairment or disturbance during their schooling, as compared to only 6% of either of the other curriculum groups. These results are attributed to the emphasis on planning, social reasoning, and other social objectives in the high-scope curriculum and the nursery school curriculum, but not in the direct instruction curriculum. This is why these teachers are here tonight. They don't want that outcome for their students, and they know that's the danger. Now I'm going to tell you about the Dolly Parton Imagination Library Program, which is, thanks to the Heights Family Foundation, is available for free to every child from birth to age 5 in Cleveland Heights, University Heights. We mail free, high-quality, age-appropriate children's books to children's homes every month from birth to the 5th birthday. The single most important factor for a child's early school success is an introduction to books and being read to at home prior to starting school. I have information about the program here, and many of you already know about it, and I've been working with the district to promote enrollment, but there's still half of the children who are eligible in Cleveland Heights, University Heights are still not enrolled in this program, and I would say that this would be a great place to put some efforts to reach children and those families before they ever come to our schools. We have the contact info for those families. For over half of them, we have email addresses. So when you're having a special event, we shared it. We sent the Heights Family Academy flyer to all of our Imagination at Library families in Cleveland Heights, University Heights, for whom we had email information. 41 studies have shown that this program has a positive and significant impact on family literacy habits, kindergarten readiness, 3rd grade reading on grade level. It's a brilliant model, it's wonderful, it's free, so let's make it a goal to get every child who's eligible in Cleveland Heights, University Heights enrolled in that program. Thank you. Dan wants me to tell people who are watching, if they haven't enrolled their children, you can enroll at www.literacycooperative.org or at www.imaginationlibrary.com. You can enroll online. There's enrollment forms at all of the library branches in our community, and there should be enrollment forms at many of the elementary school buildings. That was going to be happening. I don't know if it really is true, but I'd like it to be true. So thank you, and I'm going to pass out these materials.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Dixon, President Posh, and the rest of the board. I appreciate this time to speak to you. My name is Lisa Evans. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Garrity. This is my 29th year as an early childhood educator in the Cleveland Heights University Heights District. I spent 16 years at Milliken teaching preschool to 4- and 5-year-olds, and this is currently my 13th year in kindergarten. I have many, many, many years of experience teaching our littlest learners, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I want to express my concerns with the amount of testing we are required to do with our students who are just beginning their journey through their school careers. I don't know if you've spent much time in a kindergarten classroom at the beginning of the year, but it is definitely a very busy place. There are, capitalized, so many things the kids need to know the moment they walk through the door. But the skills that we should be teaching them or focused on deal with these areas. Where is my space on the carpet? Which table do I sit at? Where is my chair? How do I sit in my chair? True story. Where are my crayons? What do I do with my crayons when I'm done with my picture? What is my teacher's name? Where is the bathroom? How do I go to the bathroom? Some kids need direction on that. What is a line and how does that work? My teacher is very engaged in this line business and I don't know what that is. When can I have a turn to talk? When will I see my mommy? When is it lunchtime? What is in my lunchbox? What is my teacher's name? How do I share these toys, these supplies, these materials? How do I write my name? How do I hold a pencil? How am I getting home today? How do I sit quietly on the carpet when my teacher is reading a book? And when are we going to the playground? And these are things that, you know, they need to know like in the first half hour when they walk through the doors. Truly. Kindergarten kids have a very short attention span. A good kindergarten teacher knows how to keep it moving and plans lots of fun activities that incorporate movement, singing, and playing. Kindergarten activities should teach sharing, taking turns, following directions, and being independent. Kindergarten activities should not include endless testing and assessment, especially testing that does not inform my instruction. I have assessments that I do that let me know what skills a child does or does not know, having to do with letters, letter sounds, rhyming. Can they hear the first sound in a word? Can they identify their numbers and what can they count? I mean, those are the things we need to know. And some of these assessments, it's a multiple guess. And, you know, guessing from 3 letters, if I say, where's capital D, and you touch it, that doesn't really tell me if you know it. It tells me you're a good guesser. So these are the kinds of assessments that I need to do during the first weeks of school. Kindergarten assessments must be given one-on-one, and that takes a lot of time. Time spending assessing students is time that I am not teaching, and that makes me frustrated. I had to give one of my students my math slow, which is 25 questions, and all he did was just circle everything on the paper. This is wasting his time. I could be teaching, we could be playing a game. Or else say, look at me, and I'm like, honey, I know you don't know this, but we just have to put something down. So I see that, and it hurts my heart. It really, because, again, that's not what's best for them. So I'm frustrated that I'm spending far too much time on assessments that don't tell me what my students know, and then I have to take more time to give them my own assessments. So respectfully, I'd like to ask you to please direct our administration to provide time for a plan to be developed by the classroom teachers and then adopted for us to use that's going to eliminate assessment that is not appropriate for our students and does not inform our instruction. Thank you very much.
I want to take a moment and thank you guys. I mean, you could be at home with your families, but coming here certainly says a lot. And I've listened. I know all you guys were listening. It just so happens we have a work session on the 20th where we're looking at our Measurements That Matter initiative, which also includes what we're doing in the classroom as far as assessments go. Because a lot of us board members, it's been a while since we've been in a classroom with our kids, so we're still trying to figure this out along with you folks. Please give us a little bit of time to figure that out. But I really have to compliment you guys on your effectiveness to get a clear message to us in a very respectful way. And I can't tell you how I'm very, very pleased about that. Yeah, I mean, we've heard you loud and clear. So, thank you. So, I don't think the rest of the meeting is going to be dry, because I think we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. But we're going to move on. If you want to stay or watch the tape later, that's great. Yeah, watch the tape. That's good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have a ton of things to continue with right now. Moving on to our consent agenda, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
This was presented to us in advance. There was some closing
with
the door so
teachers.
we could hear. Okay, so, continue on. We have a motion in front of us about the consent agenda. We've had two resolutions that were shared with us earlier today, not resolutions, but issues for the board's hands only regarding employees, to suspend employees without pay. Do we have any discussion on any of these items in the consent agenda?
I have one question about the resolution declaring transportation impractical. Scott, do you know, or do you know, George, what the total number of students in that category are now for the school year? Because we had one earlier, and this is a much smaller addition.
No, I do not.
Okay, we don't know what the total
You
number
had the
is.
original number, whatever that was, and these parents, if they apply, then we add them to it. So this could continue on.
I see.
But this is the latest group. I can
It's
get, I
much,
can
much
share that.
smaller.
It is. I can share that. No, I'll get a total and share it with Dr. Dixon. She can share it out.
And this could theoretically, as you said.
apply for
Right, okay.
Any other questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
I probably should have done this earlier, but we've had some very generous donations for the robotics club. I wonder if there's any way that we can highlight those at some time. I mean, not necessarily tonight, but I think that would be a very, I think that would be a great thing to do. We are moving now on to our superintendent's report.
Okay,
Dr. Dixon.
thank you. First, I wanted to say congratulations to the Jesse Lang and his team and the staff for a wonderful production of Mary Poppins. It was Friday night, and excited. I know a number of members of our staff went to Toya Robinson said this weekend. It was just filled with staff members. So I think it was sold out on Saturday night. So excellent. I went afterwards and kind of hugged the kids and just told them it was just wonderful. Every year it seems like it gets better and better. You think, can you top that? And they top it. It was just exciting. And thank you, Molly Lewis. I know you worked a lot to make sure that Mary Poppins could fly. And
I did very little, actually. I was only there to assuage Ms. Samari's worries.
Yeah, but I think it shows continually shows what our students can do, and they did a fantastic job. Not only the students in front, but the students in the back, the number of set changes. I think it was phenomenal. So congratulations to all the students and the staff and the parents who volunteered as well. We have our early learning task force. Those applications are on the website. So people who want to join, just please go to the website and fill out an application. Our family engagement task force, our first meeting is November 14th. We're excited about that work and creating a 3 to 5 year family engagement plan for the district. Kiwanis Club, we have all of our advisors that are selected. We're waiting on 2 schools, so those Kiwanis clubs, K-clubs, will begin in January, so we're looking forward to that. As you mentioned earlier, we have on November 20th, we have our second of our 3-part series of data, so we would like people to please join us as we begin to look at what our district assessments are, the number of assessments, the data that we are receiving from those, so that the board has a clear understanding of the tests, the assessments that we're giving.
November 5th?
November the 20th,
20th.
the
Okay,
work
thank you.
session.
Got it. Thank you.
And again, I appreciate the staff coming tonight and relaying their frustrations, and I would like to publicly say that none of our staff members want our teachers to be frustrated. We want to work collaboratively, and we believe that we can extend that. We can always listen more and get others to help us put some other things in place as needed. We, in our summit team meeting, which is the staff and the administration, we've started the conversation. We have a meeting Friday to continue the conversation. Our staff members have been working with our teachers too, so we don't want to, I appreciate them coming forward, but I want you to know and others to know that too, we will continue to work collaboratively. We do not want a culture of a test culture established in Cleveland Heights, University Heights. We understand that when our students come to our kindergarten teachers, that is many of them their first experience. And we do not want their first experience to be one that is not productive, and a lot that was described today. We don't want to see that. That's not the culture we've had in this district for many years. We do not want that culture. So I appreciate them coming, and we will continue the conversation in our summit meeting this Friday. Finally, next week, I'm speaking at Capitol Conference along with the Right at School organization about what we've done to assist our parents and our students with after-school programming. They are highlighting Cleveland Heights, and so I will be happy to be able to tell that our story and our journey to right-size our aftercare program, and be delighted to show that we've gone from 60 students to almost 400 students who are taking advantage to our after-school program, before and after-school program, and that the district has, excuse me, we're not making money off the program. We've asked the organization to give any proceeds to families for scholarships. So it's good to see that almost 400 kids are taking advantage. And we're looking, with the PTA, has asked the organization to look at before and after school programs for our middle school. So we've had middle school parents that are asking for programming, thanks to the PTA push on that. And so they're giving us some feedback on what that could look like, and hopefully we can start something in the fall when the two middle schools return to their home sites. So that's it for me.
Can I chime in? I think that we were all impressed and surprised at how much testing was being described. And I appreciate the work that is being done in Summit, and I have faith in the process, the Summit process. I think it is really important. But it does seem that, what happened tonight doesn't happen all the time. And so it seems that something needs to be, maybe we can find a way to improve that, to expedite it. One of the things that stuck with me is that many of them we're sort of finishing with the same request, and that is a request for some time for them for the teachers to come together. And it's, that sounds like that's not a difficult thing to do, but schools are I always describe schools as like islands, that a kindergarten teacher or kindergarten teachers, I'm not nice enough to be one, but I understand. At Canterbury is sort of on an island at Canterbury with the kindergarten teachers at Canterbury, and they don't see the folks at Boulevard much. And what they were asking for seems like a really reasonable request, that maybe the teachers themselves could come together, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because I'm not qualified, but perhaps if the group of kindergarten teachers themselves could come together and say, okay, we all really agree that these tests, and this is a list that Tina gave of just first trimester tests, that, there's some low-hanging fruit of stuff that we can get rid of. And if they agree as a group, really we as a group find these not valuable. We need to kind of move on that, you know.
And we have. So the Ed Services team have had ongoing conversations with the teachers. And so there's feedback that they've been receiving and ongoing conversations. I think there's some time that's slated tomorrow for teachers to continually work. We even asked in our last summit meeting for our next step was to send out a communications and act from Summit, well, from Karen Rigo actually, to request that teachers follow up with the request that Allison Bird sent from Ed Services. So we are asking for feedback. We are listening. I don't want anyone to think that we're not listening and that we're piling on tests and piling on. That's not it. We're having respectful conversations about why and what and how in my 5 years, we've taken test assessments off. I mean, from the list we had when I entered in 2014 to the list we have now is very different. Yes, there have been some assessments that have been added because we adopted a curriculum. That's true. But we've tried to be responsive, respectful, and we do not want a culture where we're testing kids just for the sake of testing. That's not right.
I absolutely believe
right.
that.
So I believe if you allow us on the 20th, that when we have that conversation, where we can actually see the assessment, see what we're asking kids, we want to make sure that teachers do what they do best, and that's have their time with their kids teaching. We do not want to take away from teaching and learning, and just teachers don't want to sit and give assessments all day, and that's not what we want to promote. So again, we're following up in our meeting Friday. We've asked our Ed Services team, some curriculum leaders, to join us in that discussion. I sent out an email just today and asked Ari and Karen if maybe they have some additional teachers who may want to join the conversation. Because we want to be able to get it right. We want us to take the time to make sure that we get it right. So I agree. I think we have a collaborative approach to this work. I think the process we have with Summit is the right process that we utilize to make sure that we get a unified approach to this. And it's not just administration, but it's administration and the teachers working together on next steps.
And I agree. I'm a big fan of Summit, but something's not working.
Well, the process is still going on.
Okay.
So Summit met last month and brought it to our attention.
Oh, that was the first time?
It was the first time we met about it in the Summit meeting. We asked for some additional feedback, so we sent an email out to our staff members to ask for additional feedback. And we're meeting again this Friday for this month's meeting to talk about some of the feedback that we've received or we've not received, and so we can establish next steps.
Okay. So, I'm sure that others probably have something else to say, but it seemed like a very reasonable request to me. It really did. We have kindergarten teachers saying, we need time. We have professional development days on the calendar.
Yes, tomorrow, and they have one tomorrow.
Which is obviously, we're not going to get it tomorrow. But, we do have other professional development days on the calendar. It seems to me that we could prioritize some time on some of those days when we have everybody together more or less to give them a few minutes. And so for what it's worth and hopefully others will chime in if you're in agreement, I would like to see us prioritize that.
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments regarding this. First of all, I think we have to let the process work itself out, okay? I also sense the strong frustration we're hearing from staff. I'm totally serious. Time away from their families to come out here in the middle of the evening to express concern. Nobody wants to do that unless they feel like it's a problem. And I feel like we have we say the fiduciary responsibility, but I think we have the responsibility to, in our oversight, to get a better sense of what's going on. But the problem here is, unlike you, Dan, we're not educators, okay? And, I need to hear all sides of this. I need to better understand it. We're being asked to do something that, on the surface, sounds absolutely reasonable, and I agree with you on that. I think we just need to see how this all, really what is the impact here? And I got to tell you, there's two things that are bugging me. One of them is it seemed like a lot of these assessments are not necessarily things we as a school district are throwing on the teachers, but they're assessments that the state has thrown on, okay?
Absolutely.
That overly complicates things for us, because, okay, at this point of, do we honor them or don't honor them, okay? Maybe we need to take an advocacy stand, and we're upping our game when it comes to advocacy, we know that. Do we just not do it? And what's the impact if we not do it, okay?
Massive.
I think these are the things that we need to, I think we got the right people at the table to figure this out. What also was concerning is, I can't get the quote exactly right, but we gave up a records day to put together a level plan to figure out how we can squeeze all these things in, and I got the impression, once they figured it out, they realized it still was too much.
Yeah.
Okay? So here is feedback that, again, I don't have all the data, okay, because it was a conversation, and it was made by Karen, who's, part of Summit. It's like, we tried to figure this out. So is this something where they've already tried to figure it out and can't? And maybe it is that it's just too much testing, which is what I suspect.
Or
the issue
are
here
they,
is.
or are they figuring it out and their solution is getting shot down? Because I've seen that throughout
Good
the
point.
years. And I'm not saying it's what it
Right,
is.
that's not what's happening here.
Okay, good. So can we maybe, is there a sort of a target we can put on a calendar and ask for them to report back?
Well, I would say that if I can offer this solution. So we have our meeting with Summit Friday, right? And then we have on the 20th, the presentation, so you can actually see some of the some of the assessments that we're doing. I've asked, again, if, I sent it to Ari and Karen this afternoon, if they know of some teachers they would like to join the conversations. Because sometimes what we've done, we've just brought people to the boardroom and we've talked about what are some things that we need to stop doing or we need to improve, and we're there and we're listening. So I don't want us to get to that it's not, yes, if we're doing things that are harmful, someone stated, I want that harming children, that is not our core business. We do not want to do things that's harming kids. Now, because if we're doing that, then shame on us. Two, we want to be able to get data points that's going to inform instruction, but we don't want it to be time consuming for teachers. We're not designing that type of structured day for our kids.
That's what it sounded to
Right,
me a
and
lot.
so we want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what's happening. And someone says, and Sandy Womack says it all the time, those who touch the work know the work. So, we want to live, kind of get in the life of a kindergarten teacher one day. Yes, I go over and I see some of the great things that are happening, but then I'm gone. So I can make assumptions, but I don't want to. I really want them to tell us, and I think what Ed Services has done, they've set up TBT meetings, BLT meetings, different meetings where they are talking and they're engaging about what's happening and what can we strengthen and what do we need to stop doing. And the team has been responsive in that in the past, and I intend that we are going to be responsive in the future. That's why we're bringing the other curriculum leaders with us at a meeting Friday, so we can hear the other perspectives. Is it the science test? Is it a social studies test? Is it the math? Are those additional assessments impeding on what they have to do? So I think having all the voices and letting the process work through Summit, then we can come back with a response from Summit to say, you know what, this process is not yielding us any results. And then maybe there's a follow-up after the Summit meeting on Friday, and then subsequent on the 20th when we have the data presentation.
We have folks in ed services who are kindergarten background. I'm just thinking, because, me as not, I wouldn't, you know the work, you touch the work, the work.
Yeah.
Do we have people who have lived the life of a kindergarten teacher? Because, one of the things that we heard so much of was kindergarten's unique, kindergarten's different. And that, I think that's really true. One of the quotes that struck me so much was, in kindergarten, we master the script of school.
Yeah.
And I think that, I hope we have somebody who's involved in making these decisions on admin side, who's actually a kindergarten.
Well, I would say this, Dan. I think we, as administration, we rely on the experts, and the experts are the teachers. They're the ones that doing it. They're the ones that's doing the work. So I don't think we necessarily need a former kindergarten teacher on the team, but I think we need good team members who understand good instruction and are willing to listen to our team, to our staff members when they're saying that something is not fitting, something is not right. The experts are the people who were here in the room. Right? So our team, or our charge is to listen to them to make sure that the framework for them to be successful with our students is there. So, and hopefully they will continue to bring other experts. If we need outside experts, we'll get outside experts. But I think we let the process work. I think we're gonna be okay.
Oh, they know where to find us.
Yes.
Yeah. The one thing that wasn't clear to me, and I would have liked a little more clarity on it, and maybe you can get this out during Summit, is they, repeatedly asked for time, but I wasn't sure what time, are they looking for time during a professional development day? Are they looking for a couple of weeks to get together and put together a plan, like meeting over a series? So I guess I just need to understand more what they thought was required to be able to, I know you said, can we set a deadline? I can't set a deadline until I know exactly, do they want half a day of a PD day, or do they want to meet 5 or 6 times over a 6-week period? I don't know.
Yeah. Right. And that's a good that's good to get clarification on. I took it as maybe they needed more time to do that work, to investigate it. But I could be wrong.
And I was taking, when I was talking about a target on a calendar, I was sort of thinking, a target on a calendar to hear back how's progress going.
Right.
Because it is a process.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking if we could.
Well, once again, until I know what their time.
Correct. So, yes.
It's hard for me to say. I want to hear back from, I might say I want to hear back from them on the 20th, and in their minds, they might be saying.
They might not be ready.
Right.
So maybe I'll reach out to Karen.
Right. So what I would do on Friday after our meeting, and then Ari is out in the audience too, that we can establish our next steps to inform you our outcomes of the summit meeting.
Great.
And just tell you, here's the outcomes, here's the information we received tonight. And we can move forward, because there are 5 members of their team, 5 on our team. Plus, we're going to have the curriculum experts there as well. And again, we've asked the team to bring some additional teacher experts too, and we'll just give you a follow-up on that meeting. Is that okay?
I think that's really.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just like to comment, I really appreciate that they did come with a clear ask of they wanted time. I mean, oftentimes, when a large group comes up and speaks, it's very unclear what they want. One person will mention one thing, somebody else, and you're not really sure what to do. This, I felt, that at least we have an idea. I just said I would like a little more clarity around what time, when they said time, what they mean. But at least I even know the right question to ask to get more information on that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so you're done with your superintendent's report. Time for the treasurer's report. Scott.
Yes, so we have a 5-year forecast here for your approval. And as I mentioned in the update over the weekend, really the bottom line numbers have not changed, this forecast to the previous one. The only thing that is different is that we've taken the money for the Kaiser Reserve out of reserve. Our whole don't ask, don't tell philosophy did not work out for us, and so the county did take the money finally. So we got to hang on to it for a little bit, but so they finally did do that deduction, so that should show up in our next settlement. So I moved that placeholder in that line item out of the forecast and just embedded the reduction into the property tax receipt. So that's the only difference, forecast to forecast, but bottom line numbers are the same.
Do I have a motion to accept the 5-year forecast?
So moved.
Second.
You want to call the roll?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it for me.
That's it for you? I wanted to take a moment and thank you for keeping us up to date on some of the staffing changes that you've had in your department, which you got 2 key people out.
Yes.
You need to start hiring, get some temporary help in.
We're doing our thing.
Yeah. You gotta
That's
do
all
it.
we can say.
So,
Absolutely.
You gotta do it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you. Great deal,
'cause,
Scott.
You know, just worried that it's affecting other things. I mean, we do get the monthly emails about our software implementation isn't quite right, and I know there's software bugs. We just need to get that right.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for working hard on it. Sorry. The board president report. Let's touch on the first 2 agenda items. The third, well, it's really not the third, it's not the fourth, but it's the final, hopefully, reading of 9140.1 and 9140.02. These are the modifications to 9140 that better reflect how we want to work with our citizens committees. One for the task forces that Dr. Dixon and staff deal with on a regular basis, and then ongoing committees. So we've had this in front of us. There's been some tweaking in the language. It's out in board docs. Can I have a motion to accept these?
So we'll have to take them separately since we already did one consent, sorry.
So
we'll have to have a resolution for the removal of the one and then go through. Limitation board docs, sorry about that.
I move that we remove policy 9140, the Citizens Advisory Committees.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Do I have a motion for 414001?
I move that we adopt on the final reading, policy number 914001, the Citizens Task Force.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to thank everyone who's worked on these because it's taken a fair amount of beefing of language to get this to reflect what we want it to do. And as we have learned in the past year or so, careful use of language is important, and this is what we want it to be. So I'm very happy with the outcome.
I echo the sentiments. Painful process.
But it's worth doing it right.
We have to get the lawyers involved. Oh, no, we have to look at this. It's all done.
But it's important to do it right, because otherwise we put ourselves in a situation for misinterpretation later, and we don't want that.
Well, and that's a good point, because we've had some folks who are avid internet trolls who are very concerned about these policies. And the grayness of some of them, trying to clean this up is one of the things that we have to do.
Yes.
And thanks for all your help in doing it. Would you call the vote?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Can I have a motion on 9140.02?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion?
What I said before.
Call the vote.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
I would like to echo Dr. Dixon's comments about Mary Poppins. It was really, really cool to see.
So, if I may,
Yeah, go.
It was, so I was there, I had a really neat night. I went with a guy, my wife had paperwork to do. And so I called the guy who was my Heights Singers folder partner 30 few years ago. And Rich Gilmore and I went and watched Mary Poppins together. And at one point, Rich leaned over and he said, "Yeah, we were never this good." And it was such a thrill, but as good as the kids were, and wow, were they good, it was the first time I had seen a play or a musical. I've seen concerts, but I've seen the stage, the auditorium in all of its new glory. And I saw the sets flying up and down and the quick changes. And one of the things that really struck me as a guy who spent some time on that stage a few years ago is, you know, they expanded our community invested in an extensive expansion of the size, the square footage of that stage. They pushed the back wall back to more where it was originally. And that opens up so many opportunities. And it was such a joy. I was really in there that night feeling so very appreciative of the community's investment in nights like that, in events like that, and changing rooms instead of us using the gyms, and just all of the stuff around that made that such a fantastic event for everyone in the audience, for the high school students, for the 50 or so elementary school students who, guess what, we just hooked. Oh man, did they get hooked.
That's true.
And middle school students.
Yeah, and middle school kids. And it was a joy to celebrate all of that. And it just really made me very appreciative of the community's investment and trust in us with that significant bond issue. And so it's worth, every time we have an opportunity to say thank you, I just think it's worth us saying thank you.
I just have to say, I went Thursday night, and I took my best friend from Shaker, and this is the first time she had been in our high school. She was very excited she's driven by it many times, and when we walked, and I gave her a quick little tour as much as I could of the high school. When we walked into the auditorium, she just said, "Wow." And then the performance blew her away, and she had to text me on Sunday morning because she was out with some other friends, and apparently some other friends of hers in Shaker had been at different nights, and she said that was the buzz, was how fantastic Cleveland Heights' performance of Mary Poppins was. So that our buzz has gone beyond our own community,
All right.
which is very exciting.
Release the buzz.
Yes.
I was there on Sunday, and it was so good to see. It was a full house.
Yeah.
Just standing room only.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just good to see the support of the community. Yeah.
It's good to see Ron Register there.
Yes,
on
it
Sunday.
was. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, my favorite topic is career tech ed. And
Yes,
we
you're
know
there.
that those kids should be earning
Yeah.
academic credit and industry credentials for
Yeah.
the sort of work that they're doing. So it's coming.
Yes.
Well, I also got a call on Sunday from a friend who lives in Shaker who was driving by. And he goes, "What are you serving? Like free food in there?"
Because of
"And
the
you got
parking
cement trucks?"
situation?
Apparently, there must have been some.
Yeah, baseball.
Okay, so work was happening. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to hear from outside your community.
Yes.
We had a great meeting with UH, University Heights Council.
Yes.
That worked out very well. It's good that they have the 5-year forecast. I think they felt really comfortable with the numbers and how they're being prepared. In their brandings, it's really great that we do this. The collaborative work that our staff has done with the leaders in Cleveland Heights to get the pool open for some extra hours. Great job. Thank you, everybody.
That took a lot of doing.
It take a lot of doing. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is the superintendent search. So we've had 3 folks come to us about wanting to help out. Ray and Associates, as well as the folks that we met with tonight, mentioned it would be helpful to know if they had the job in time for Capitol Conference.
Next week.
Well, Sunday.
Yeah.
Dr. Dixon, from, I don't know, but you still don't have a contract with Columbus, or do you have a contract with Columbus yet? Or is that still being worked out?
It's
and-
still being worked out. We
Okay.
should have something soon.
So I did talk to Rain Associates on the phone today, and one of the things that Mike mentioned was they would be willing to do something with us on a contingency basis. So if Dr. Dixon's contract talks with Columbus fall through, they wouldn't be on the hook. But they would very much, if they are the deciding group, they would like to know. I also had a conversation with them about, well, let's hypothetically say that our board was interested in working with you folks. And Shaker also,
Yes.
we know Shaker is looking at Ray and Associates among other search firms. What happens if the same search firm is working on both projects? And their comeback to that was, you're going to get a bigger pool. They would love to be able to do it. They think we're going to get a much bigger pool if that's the case. And I asked them, well, do you see any negatives? And they said no.
Well, they get two contracts, so there's no negative to that.
Right.
Well, I didn't expect them to say anything. I mean, I think we need to work through these issues ourselves. I mean, what are the negatives? I mean, what happens if you've got one candidate that, a finalist in Shaker, because, maybe they're a month ahead of us and we're a month behind. You get one candidate in both, a finalist in both. One doesn't get one, they get offered the other. I mean, it could be difficult. I also think we need to realize there's going to be some similarities in the profile between the two schools.
Without a
I think there's going to be
doubt,
some
yeah.
differences, but I think there's going to be some profile differences. I mean, if Shaker's going through some of this, by the time they get to us, again, hypothetically, maybe they would have worked through some of those things to have a better idea of what those mean by hearing them from multiple communities.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, we're not making a decision tonight, right?
Well, I don't think we can, I don't think we can make a decision tonight. Well, first of all, we've got three folks that we've talked about. I think before we make any decision, we need to realize, is this the three or should we look for more? We have the time frame issue of, there is no contract with Dr. Dixon and Columbus at this point. We're going on the pretense that there will be one,
Correct, there will be one.
okay?
Mhm.
That is the pretense that we're going with. So, and then we have Capitol Conference coming up.
Right.
So how much of this, can they talk about the opportunity for Capitol Conference, during Capitol Conference? I am not as concerned about that because we still need to come up with a profile. So whoever they're talking to in Capitol Conference, they're just expanding their network. And they know this.
Buzz will be out there anyway.
Yeah. Right, because Columbus, I'm sure we're going to try to wrap this contract up this week. So, before Capitol Conference. So, I think we should move forward with thinking about who you're going to choose, so then that way that they would have an opportunity.
And of course, we're going to be buttonholed by everybody as board members in Columbus, whether we have chosen which way we want to go or not.
Right, right.
I think it's very important that we get this in motion as soon as we possibly can. I don't want to lose a day. And if we are going to have a decision this week, now, In Chardon, the Chardon Board of Education, it was very unusual, actually noticed a meeting of the Chardon Board of Education in Columbus during Capitol Conference. Is that kosher?
It is kosher. I know that some districts do that because they're going to have a quorum of members at that conference. A lot of districts avoid doing that because it also doesn't provide an easy opportunity
Right.
for
Right.
residents to attend and observe those conversations.
And that's why I'm uncomfortable with it. Philosophically, I was upset that they did it, but I feel that this is a unique moment that I really don't want to lose a day if we don't have to lose a day.
You know, let's put to rest, I mean, let's, because there's a lot of things on the plate here, let's take things off the plate real quick. So the Capitol Conference piece. Okay, I've been on the board 2 years. I mean, we never noticed these meetings. We all see each other there. Oftentimes, we have dinner together.
Right.
No decisions made.
Correct.
I mean, this
Correct.
is,
Right.
I mean, it'd be like seeing each other at a party.
Right.
No decision is made.
Correct.
And we're without Jody.
Correct.
Because I have a business trip
Yeah.
from my day job.
Yeah, so we're not about to have any conversations about anything.
Right.
Okay?
Right, okay.
So, and we honor that. So, I mean, just throwing that out. Just so-
Aren't we meeting on Saturdays, on this coming up Saturday for, I think you and I and some of the
yeah.
other board members for school?
A walkthrough, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so
Some
that-
of us
that-
are meeting tomorrow for
Oh,
that too.
oh,
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm doing
so
it
that's
tomorrow.
actually on my agenda. I mean, 3 of us are walking through some of the schools, just walking
See
through
'em.
the schools, just to see them, so we have a better sense. And then you 2 are going on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I may join you on that Saturday.
Great.
Because once isn't enough.
Might have
Just
to
wanna
meet
see the
again.
bus.
So will we all be in town on Saturday?
We will,
Yeah, my Saturday's pretty full with
but,
others.
I mean, I think we can, okay, so if we're meeting on Saturday to make a decision about the superintendent search, there's no reason why we can't do that right now. I mean, if we feel like we have enough information, and which is sort of like the next step. Do we have, with the 3 folks that we've spoken to, do we think we've got a good representation of 3 viable choices?
I've never done it before, but I will tell you that I would feel comfortable with Ray and Associates. And I'll tell you why. I really liked the OSBA, to be honest with you. I thought they did a very good presentation. They were reasonably priced. I feel that they've got good connections within the state they're the Ohio School Boards Association. I think where, in my mind, Ray was significantly better was in their willingness to actually go out and engage with people who they thought might be a good fit. So their willingness to reach out to candidates instead of just wait to receive interests. That was impressive to me. That made a big difference to me.
And yet OSBA has already been receiving inquiries about our position. And so, when I say the buzz is out, the word's out, there's no question. But I agree with you that having that national reach and going out and actively
Yeah, and I will say,
asking people who might be appropriate, I think is valuable to us.
I thought that Ray did not do well when they were talking about MSAN. That was like
Yeah,
an
that was
oops
a little
moment. That was their
surprising.
oops moment.
Yeah.
However, I think that, that I'm confident that they will become more familiar with MSAN once they
They
realize.
probably already have,
They
don't you
probably
think?
already have.
After Jody's question.
Yes. Those were the two companies that I was interested in, of the three.
Beverly, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, OSBA,
Why four?
because we're looking for someone that's familiar with the state of Ohio rules, and I think if we're gonna look within the state, I'd rather go with OSBA. And I thought we had talked about not looking at our reach going as far as a national search.
Let's talk about that for a sec. I mean, okay. I'm worried that we may not find someone in Ohio.
Some of the MSAN districts that are outside of the state, and I think that those MSAN districts are important for us to look into because I think that they're sort of similar districts and they're doing good work that, I think that basically their priorities probably align pretty closely to ours. So, excuse me. I was originally right there with you, we should stay within Ohio. But once we started talking about other factors that I just hadn't considered, my interests opened up a little throughout the process.
Yeah, here's kind of where I've come down. After the first meeting with OSBA, I was very impressed with, far more impressed than I thought I would have been with them, to be honest. Just because I had a lot of confidence in the woman who came and spoke to us. I was a little concerned about they don't reach out to candidates, so you are kind of in that mix of people who happen to be looking for a job right now, but maybe, you might think you're happy in a job, but somebody calls you with an opportunity, you go, wow, that's kind of interesting. I liked the process that the firm spoke about tonight, but I was a little concerned because they didn't really talk much about, they said, yeah, we'll contact people, but I didn't feel like they were as assertive about that as I felt that Ray and Associates was. And, Ray and Associates even went so far as to say is, if you know somebody, give us their name, we'll call them. If you know of school districts, I think about when Dr. Dixon came to us, just on paper, if you saw her last job was in Saginaw, Michigan, we might not have considered her, but she had deep Ohio experience. So you came to the district knowing how screwed up Ohio is. And Ray and Associates did talk about the fact that they have connections with a lot of previous candidates who have done exactly that, worked in Ohio, left, might be interested in coming back. So, I would say that it kind of depends on what we want, because I think they all brought strengths. I think they all brought a little bit different, the firm we did here tonight, they were very, the one thing I liked about them was they talked about needing to know it fit for your community, needing to know it was the right person for your community. So I think that was definitely top of mind for them. I thought that Ray Associates, one of their strengths was they were, would actively be networking and looking for people with that Ohio connection. And I think that OSBA has a lot of strength within Ohio, but I don't think that, they flat out said they don't call people, they don't, do that active recruiting. So I think it depends on what we think we need.
Yeah. One thing I've been thinking about is that, yes, Ohio's funding system is particularly annoying and pernicious, and our laws around, hampering school public education are also particularly annoying. But I don't think that we are unique in either of those things. I think there are plenty of other states with their own similarly specific and difficult sort of structures. And what one of the people tonight said was that the challenges, I can't remember how he phrased it, that, challenges shouldn't turn you off, but they should be any decent candidate would embrace them. And I suspect that the same idea applies to the, the uniqueness of Ohio. I don't know that we're necessarily that unique. There's plenty of other places that are screwed up. And, it's just a question
Well,
of being
I mean,
willing to tackle that.
It's a punitive report card.
Yes.
It's an ed choice.
Mhm.
It's, contract negotiations are very different.
Yes.
And the funding. So, I mean,
Mhm.
those are the
It's a bunch
four
of big things, but, at a superintendent level, those are the things you should expect to have to deal with, right? Any superintendent. And the details would vary from state to state, but you come in, you hit the ground running, and you pick it up pretty quickly. Or else you're not ready to be a superintendent, At least that's I'm
Well,
being, a
if
little
you-
harsh there.
If you've never worked in a state with collective bargaining, I think that puts you at a significant disadvantage for this role.
Sure, yes.
I
But there are lots of states
Yeah.
with collective
That do
bargaining.
that, yes.
So, again, that's what I'm saying. I don't think, we may be quirky, but we're not really unique in that sense. We've got our own set of quirks.
We went in a bunch of different tangents. Did you have any further things to say? I was most attracted to OSBA, but I've got a lot of concerns with them, just because I think they're limited to Ohio. And when I look at how we don't have a strong base of African-American superintendents, only 11 out of 700, that's a pretty, as in your comment, what is it? It's 2018. I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, I would agree, something's wrong. I think we need to reach, in the state of Ohio, but I also think we need to be looking outside too.
I've come to that as well.
Yeah, and and it's hard because Rain Associates is the most expensive firm out there. I think we're getting more for that because of it. I love the folks that were here tonight. I sort of love the fact that they're local. I wish we could give it to a local group. I would want to. I think if it was me, I would choose Ray. Now, I think when we're looking at this, we have to be absolutely sure that, I think we need to go with the assumption that, again, just assumptions, Shaker's going to hire him. I think we need to, it hasn't happened. Shaker's meeting on the 14th. There's other parties out there, but I think we have to go with the assumption that Shaker's going to hire him. So I think when we're making our decision, we need to go with that thought. Do I have a motion to hire Ray and Associates?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Can we do this resolution so if we hire them and there is no Columbus contract with Dr. Dixon, just to protect ourselves, you told us it's inevitable, but we get that, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
We can get out of this?
No, well, I would say we wouldn't engage them until the end of the week. We would know the situation with Dr. Dixon by then, so.
And I don't believe there's any kind of contract negotiation, so let's make sure that the contract is subject to legal review.
And did we want to, what was the no poaching that we wanted to include in that contract?
Oh, they had a 5-year no poach
have it.
post-placement.
They
That-
said-
I was just
well,
looking at my notes.
They said two things, 5-year no poach, or you could have it written in that they will never poach.
That's right.
I'm going to go with, okay, so this is conversation about this element. I mean, I think if a superintendent has done her work and wants to move on, we shouldn't do anything to limit that. Just like a staff member, if you're a teacher and you want to move on to a higher role, it's not like you're no longer passionate about teaching, you're still passionate about education. You're just moving on to the next step. I think 5 years is good enough.
Mhm.
I don't want to send the message to another superintendent that, and I don't want to be perceived as a stepping stone district, but, I mean, I think we need to accept reality here, okay? We need to make sure we've got the processes in place, so as our staff members grow, we can accommodate that without having to rebuild from square one, which is what this district has done so many times.
And I would add, you know, this, as I think I said in the last meeting, this challenge for us right now is a testament to the wonderful work that the previous board did in finding Dr. Dixon and convincing her to come. And I believe that this community and this district doing the good work that has been done over the past years is what got Columbus's attention. And so,
Yep.
you know, if that's the reason for us being a stepping stone, I would love to attract the very best of the best who want to move up and who have aspirations.
As long as they stay long enough to have a good impact.
As long as their exit does not put us in any sort of institutional, you know, danger. You know, as long as the early exit is at the end of the year. Yes.
So you may be shining your halo right now, just saying. But I think there's lots of phenomenal staff members that have made this district successful.
Yes.
It's a team effort.
Team effort,
And I
total
want to
team effort.
just
Yep.
throwing that out there.
Yeah.
It's
It's
how
a
you
team.
assemble it and
Yep.
manage it.
And manage it, yep.
and move
Agreed.
with it. So, okay, so we have a couple pieces here. So, take a vote on that. Any further discussion on this item?
No.
Would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
No.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Everybody?
So it is.
Okay. As far as protocol reaching out to them, why don't I call Mike in the morning and let him know that our staff will be in touch with him? So I
Okay.
think we need to start building a relationship with him, and I think that's a good place to start.
Fair enough.
Okay, good. So, enrollment numbers, our enrollment is up.
Yes.
Numbers are good.
I have not had the opportunity to look at the 10-year numbers that you put together.
That Scott put together for us.
And
I looked at them and then
It's
I
good,
lost
yeah.
them.
so what's kind of amazing is everybody says declining enrollment, declining enrollment, declining enrollment, and here our enrollment is up. So I think we need to spend a little bit of time, not now, but I mean, I think we need to put some time on the calendar where we talk a little bit about enrollment trends. So if we can get that into an agenda item in a work session, I think that would be really, really great.
The one thing that,
The next one, the 20th? Or after that?
See how it all fits in.
Okay.
yeah, the one thing that was interesting when I was looking at, and I can't remember which of the couple of reports that you've sent us, but our enrollment was up, which was great. The enrollment of, it looked like, if I read it right, the enrollment of non-publics was up as well, a little bit, which, does that mean that as a region, we're starting to grow, which would be very interesting, because for so long, you hear that the city of, Greater Cleveland has been shrinking in size, so if our community is actually up in both of those numbers, I find that very interesting and very positive. I'll have to look at that again and say which one it was. I think I sent a quick email and I'm like, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like, our numbers were up quite a bit for what they have been, and then the non-publics and privates were up slightly as well, which would be a great trend for our region if population as a whole is up a little bit.
Right. We have to dig deeper in that because the population in Cuyahoga County is not growing.
I
It
know,
is-
that's
it's-
why I
it's
thought that was
declining.
interesting.
Yeah, it is
I was like, well,
declining.
that would be
So
bucking
we
that
may want
trend.
to look at maybe why the non-public students, we have heard there's many students that are moving into the area to take advantage of other educational opportunities. So that may be where we're seeing the increase.
It could be, but we were up as well.
Correct.
Which
Oh, yes,
was
which is good.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I
it
love
was-
that.
It was interesting that both were up.
Correct.
I would
Yeah.
be more concerned if they were up and we were down.
Right.
But housing sales have picked up also in this
yeah,
area, which is good to
It is
see.
good.
I think it's a good dialogue we need to continue and
Okay,
have
yeah.
and better understand it. I mean, the
Mhm.
three of you
Sorry, I
ran
get to the
on
session.
the issue of better communicating and getting more kids into our schools. Okay, so,
Gotta make it.
I mean, something's happened, and it really happened before you guys got on the board, okay?
Right,
But
right,
let's try to
right.
figure out what
No,
all
no,
this
but
means.
The current administration has to take all credit for everything that was
Well,
started
we
before.
see that
Come on.
happening.
None of the blame.
Yeah, so let's,
Yeah.
let's get some better information
Yeah.
about that. Okay, so just in the spirit of keeping everybody aware of things, the Heights Coalition, Ari Klein and Dan brought forth for our consideration a resolution to look at a spiritware where it's being manufactured. And Dr. Dixon is working on doing an analysis of where we're at with that.
Correct.
We've had some conversations about middle school honors classes, algebra, kind of where we stand with the middle schools. It'd be really great to get an update on where we are at with that
Okay.
at some point in
Okay.
time. Especially after, I mean, I think the last time we had a significant number of teachers in this room talking to us was regarding the middle schools.
middle
So I'd
schools,
love to see where
Okay.
we're standing with that. We are walking the buildings tomorrow. We talked about that. And there was an email that we got today from Lindsay regarding the ECOT suit.
Yes.
So we talked about, at one point in a board meeting, what it would cost us to join that lawsuit. So our legal team basically is recommending that we don't do that. They've suggested possibly filing a brief of our own. They thought the cost of that was about $18,000.
10 to 18 was
10
the
to 18,000.
range she put in that email, yeah.
Yeah. So that number seems high for the impact it would have, to me. You know, that was a higher number than I was expecting, actually. I've never hired a lawyer to write an amicus brief, so I don't really know if it was a high number or not. But, you know, it's a brief basically asking the court to hear the case. And so as I was thinking about it, you know, we could, and what the court does with that amicus, they might not even read it. They have no obligation to read it. So we could spend $18,000 on a great deal of research in support of this, which is worth supporting. Or perhaps we could spend some time, if we knew somebody who was really good with the English language, Malia, and we could alternately come up with a resolution in support of it and have that resolution, if it were adopted, sent to the judge, who might or might not hear it,
Might or might not read it, just like.
but it would not cost $18,000.
I don't know, what's my hourly rate?
Not enough.
Not enough, yeah, sure.
You know, and I would be willing to participate in that as well, if that's the direction we wanted to go. It just seems, to me, on the face of it, having learned more about it, you know, we are a party to the case.
That was the interesting thing about Lindsay's email, is that even if we do nothing, we are a party to the case because we had students from our district enrolled in ECOT. The likelihood of anything ever trickling down to us, though, is so low that I agree with you. It doesn't seem wise to spend a lot of money up front. And even if money does trickle down to us, how significant an amount of money would that be sometime in the future?
Well, I think we need to assume we're not going to see any money out of this.
No, it's sort of like other places in Columbus we hope to see money from where we know we won't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's this corporate shell, as, you know, as the way the money is flown to these operators of ECOT. I mean, there's, I think, no possibility of clawing and getting that money back. So what our efforts are doing is, it's somewhat advocacy work to prevent it from not happening again.
Well, I was speaking to Senator Sherrod Brown's education staffer, education aide, I'm not sure exactly what her title is, yesterday. And ECOT is a big fat target right now for his work, and they are working, they're trying to come up with, you know, federal legislation around holding charter schools accountable because of the ECOT disaster. It would cost us nothing to add our voices symbolically, and I think that's worth doing, and make it known that, you know, we would notice any further attempt at this kind of, you know, embezzlement of funds. I want to know what happened to those kids. We've only got 5 back in the district, is that right, of the 61?
Yeah.
Oh, 6.
6.
Okay, thank you.
But realistically, a lot of those kids have been off the radar and forgotten about a long, long time ago, okay? So this is,
Many of them are probably finished with public school.
I mean,
Yeah.
It just
I mean,
makes me very angry.
the data
You
was
know?
so bad that they were using and reporting against
Yeah.
the 65 that we thought that were in there. Who knows if they really were in there to begin with? I mean, you have to remember, there's a significant amount of fraud that was taking place and how these
Yeah.
numbers were actually getting
But,
reported.
you know, those children's transcripts just disappeared, poof, you know, which makes any further education much more difficult.
Yeah, so I don't feel comfortable doing nothing, okay? I
Agreed.
just don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable doing anything. And we have Capitol Conference next week where we're with our peers. I mean, I think when we're with our peers, we find out what the word is on the street, what other people are doing. I mean, that's part of our job of going to Capitol Conference. So I think we should take advantage of that.
Agreed.
And I'm eager to engage. I'm eager for our district to engage and for our district to you know, engage financially. I recognize that there will be a time. I'm just not sure that the payoff for this investment is in this case right now. So.
Would agree. Okay, moving on. Dr. Dixon, you were on a panel with Chief DeMuth from Shaker yesterday about
Yes.
gun laws, and you sent us a text and said, you know, a couple citizens approached you and they sort of gave you the impression of, do you arm teachers or not? You sent that to all of us. We all got a little excited.
Well, it was.
And I think it's time, I mean, this is, you know, it's one of those gray areas where it's like, you can't continue this. So let's talk about that right now.
Yeah, so basically it was well attended. It was me and the chief of police in Shaker talking at First Unitarian Church about school safety. And that congregation is concerned about all around safety, even in their church. And I think they've have a task force, and they're looking at even security being in their place of worship. So they talked about safety in general, and what are schools doing to ensure that schools are safe. And the police chief and myself was able to give them some information, and we couldn't give as much for schools because we can't divulge our safety plans, et cetera. But we pretty much share with them that schools are very safe, and we have protocols in place, and sometimes schools are safer than some of these other places that people frequent. The police chief was able to show how some of the data from active shooters and show how that 9 times out of 10 these are not random acts, these are things that are calculated, that are planned, and talked about how we as a community, well, Shaker as a community, need to be more informed and talk with their neighbors and their friends, and it is a conversation. It can't be something that's policed by the police alone. It's a collaborative effort. So afterwards, it's about an hour, about 50 people there, and it's about an hour. Afterwards, some people ask for our opinions about gun control. They asked if there's do we believe there's an oversaturation of guns, and what were our positions on it. And the chief didn't give a position, and I didn't either. But they asked, did we believe that teachers should, should teachers have guns? And again, my position is, we let police, and that teachers and educators, we teach. And that we set up protocols, and we work with our police, and we're unique. I mean, we're able to say, you're talking about being unique, when we're talking about setting up systems, I remember when we moved our high school students next door, we had a meeting with South Euclid Police, Cleveland Heights, and University Heights, and it was frustrating when we had to inform our students, if you walk down the street and you cross the street and something happens, you have South Euclid rules, or you go down the street, they're University Heights rules, or you cross over, so our kids have been subject to some of these adult decisions. People are concerned, and they're more so concerned about the fear of this climate that we have in our country, and how the impact of that on our kids. So our kids coming to school worried that something is going to happen. And I stated again that you trust your teachers, trust the rules and the protocols that they have in place. Listen to your teachers is what we want our students. We don't want our kids coming to school fearful that something is going to happen. That should be the place, as the kindergarten teachers talked about, that you have play and you have fun and you're learning. So again, a very good conversation. I think is a national conversation that we're seeing. And it may be something that we want to engage our stakeholders in. I was just invited to that event. It was amazing. It was filled with former Heights grads who are now all living Shaker, who go to that place of worship. But I think it's something that we may want to talk more about, the impact of that, of fear, talking openly about the collaborative partnership. It's not schools alone, but it's schools and the community and our safety personnel. But I thought it was a very fruitful conversation, was glad to be invited and to share what we're doing in Cleveland Heights. Mm-hmm.
So, do we do anything about it?
Well, we know that the trade show at Capitol Conference is filled with people who want to sell their services to make your school safe. If you flip through this book that we just got, it's nonstop. They are selling. There's money to be made from fear and paranoia. Dr. Dixon, we just received a grant
$30,000 from Mike DeWayne's office.
Yeah, and that's because of House Bill 318, is that right? Okay. Now, that money is going to be used for what specifically?
Actually, we talked about it in the cabinet last week, and we had several choices. One was invest in our security staff, being trained in restorative practices, more cameras, metal detectors, the mobile metal detectors that we could possibly use during our sporting events.
So that would be for outside?
For outside or the basketball games, you know, when you come inside, those. So we talked about looking at those three that I can remember on top of my head. If there was another on the team, let me know. But we are planning to have, we just thought the training, since we're doing restorative practices, was something that that was good. Again, additional cameras. What do we don't have cameras? Because we have $30,000 that we have to spend by June 30th. And then we were looking at the pricing of the mobile metal detectors. So we believe that we can do two projects, one that and I think there was an educational piece that we talked about. So we think that with that amount, we can do at least two of the 4 or 5 that we were discussing.
So I received an email from Senator Williams today or yesterday that only half of the grant money available has been allocated.
Well, we have ours.
And so I don't know
So,
if we're
right.
allowed to go after more money or not, or if we're tapped.
Oh, you know what? I don't know, but we can.
Is that
we can
something that
investigate and see.
CHUH can look into?
Okay, we can look into that.
Because the numbers were quite staggering. There's like $3 million still sitting on the table.
Because we will receive the allocation.
And if
for-
there are things which we want to do
Right.
with our staff that we think are appropriate,
Mhm.
that qualify for that money, then hey, we should go after it.
I agree. Okay.
I got to go on the record and say, I'm very supportive of teacher training. I am not supportive of ever arming a teacher. I've got some very strong reasons behind that. I think, number one, you put a teacher in a horrible dilemma, moral dilemma. What if you're in a classroom and there's a shooter in the building? Do you leave your kids to go chase the bad guy? No. Do you put a teacher in a situation where they might have to shoot a student or a former student? Horrible moral dilemma. And most importantly, and this is a fact from a RAND study from 2008, even highly trained police officers miss 70 to 80% of their shots in a dynamic situation. More bullets flying around with children is not the answer.
Well, I'd like to add to that. I mean, just from a factual basis, when you see these school safety officers whose job it is to stand with a gun by a doorway, they don't solve the problem by just being there.
No.
When you heard our president basically saying, "Oh, well, the synagogue wouldn't have been attacked if there was if you had security people in there." Police were there almost immediately, and there was gunfights between the police and the shooter. I mean, there's no distracting.
Well, and the last thing is, if the police come in and several people have guns, who's the bad guy?
Right.
Who do you shoot?
It muddies the situation
It muddies
even
the
further.
situation.
Right.
So it's also worth pointing out that, again, you know, with the bond issue and the work being done first on the high school and now on the middle schools entrances and you know, are being reorganized with this exact thing, among others, in mind. So, you know, the main entrance of Monticello is being reworked with safety, as, you know, it is, that is what is causing that redesign. It's a significant redesign. Heights High School's main entrance was moved over to the side entrance. Still the side entrance. And same thing goes for Rocks. So, you know, there are some, I think that to some degree, the structural changes that we can make are probably where some of the again, that low-hanging fruit can be found, and we've got some of that underway.
I was real impressed when I got on this board and the team when we were discussing the safety issues at the high school, about how if there was legislation and we had to do metal detectors, for example, it's all powered, it's all ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
The whole issue of multiple doors, trapping people in. I mean, so there was a lot of thought into making that building safe.
And we have a fantastic safety and security force here under Brian's leadership, you know, who people need to be reminded He is a full career, retired Cleveland Heights police officer, Heights High grad, and he has built a department around him that is I think, very impressive.
Well,
You
the
know,
most important thing is always the relationships, right?
And that's, yes.
When your staff have relationships with the students, when they have relationships with each other, they know who's in, who's out, what's going on, and it's so much easier to keep tabs on the activities in the building if you know the people who are involved. And the security guards are, they're all over those kids. They know who's who and what's going on and who's got problems and who doesn't. And that's their main job, is really to have those relationships with the kids and to know who belongs there and who doesn't.
And where I see that is Heights football games. And I've talked to Dr. Dixon, I've talked to Brian, I've given him a pat on the back about it. You're at the football games and kids come over and give high fives and hugs to the security team. And that, to me, just speaks volumes about that building of relationships. And when they say, hey, guys, go sit down, get off the railing, go sit down, the kids don't give them trouble. They just do it because it's not some security guard. It's Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so. They know these people.
So when we're at Capitol Conference this coming week, I really think that this should be something that we talk with our peers about, look at sessions. I mean, just get a better sense of what other folks are doing it
Yeah.
and things we can bring back.
Keep in mind that the needs will be very different for different communities. I mean, I grew up in a very rural community. If your closest police department is 20 minutes away, your need might be very different than our need, where our police department is very close. So you will hear in rural districts where they really feel like they need armed resource officers closer by their schools. That, I'm not going to discount that could be a need in a rural district, but it's probably not as much of a need here. So you do have to, when you're talking to our counterparts, think about, find out where they're coming from too, because their needs could be different from what ours would be.
That's a very important distinction to make, because there is somebody who's trying to propose legislation in the Columbus State House that would require all public school districts to have 2 armed officers or metal detectors at every entrance. And I can't remember his name.
Probably from a rural district.
And precisely, and that sort of legislation is a blanket that does not take into account variation between districts. And there is variation, and variation is good, and there is no one solution that fits everybody. So, we are completely correct to go after some of those dollars from HB 318 to use for the things that are appropriate for us. Another district would go after some of that grant money for something different that's more appropriate to them. And you can't just create a single
Why the
solution.
word local is still in the school district's name.
Yes, indeed. So.
Okay, so I think we have sort of a plan and just bring this back.
Yep.
Bring back anything that you learn. So that's it for my report. We have board committee reports. On the agenda, we have a Heights School Foundation report.
Yes. Happy to report on behalf of the Heights Schools Foundation. No doubt Juliana has something else important on her in her world this evening. So there's 3 things. First of all, the Golden Tigers are Heights High graduates of 50 years or more. There is the 2nd annual Golden Tigers grads get-together, which is coming up on November 10th, this weekend. And it's not too late, so you can go to the Heights Schools Foundation website to get more information. They are looking for more of our Golden Tigers.
How many years did you say that was?
50-plus years ago,
Okay.
graduates. Also, the October issue of the Heights Magazine was mailed to 16,000 alumni in its paper form. and it was distributed digitally to 50,000 more people, and it is a fantastic, my gosh, it is a great, it is a great magazine.
And can you make sure, or ask Juliana or the foundation to make sure that that electronic version is sent to all of our elected officials in Cleveland Heights, University Heights, South Euclid?
Yes.
And I would like it sent to us as well.
Yeah, this way we
Yes.
can forward
I
it.
don't get it.
Okay.
I picked
That'd
up
be
a
great.
hard copy
That's
Yes.
why I
out there.
have to pick it up
but
out there, because
yes,
I'm
right.
not an alum.
That's great. That's a really good idea. So this edition, among other things, highlights the generation-to-generation relationships of Heights High band alumni, and in particular calls out just a beautiful story of an alum who donated to outfit the entire marching band with new uniforms.
Amazing.
It's just a
So
fantastic,
generous.
generous gift. So it tells that story. And the last thing is that we have the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. Nominations are open, they're being accepted, and so people are encouraged to nominate folks. You can do so at the heightschoolsfoundation.org website. So those are the three highlights of the Heights Schools Foundation at the moment. I also have a brief Heights Coalition announcement, if I can
Go
do
for
that.
it,
So,
please.
so there's two things that the Heights Coalition for Public Education has got going on. The first is, and I've got flyers, I'll pass them down, we'll leave some around. The first is an interesting presentation on November 15th at Wiley. There's another, is it a CTE event the same night perhaps, at the high school.
Yes.
So we're going to be next door, and it's simply entitled, "The Election is Over, Now What?" And so it will be just sort of a look at the new political landscape as it relates to public education in Ohio and the nation. We're also going to work with people who come on, what we call the elevator speech. And so it's that quick 2-minute, hey, elected official or person in authority, here's the issue that I'm very interested in. Here's, what I would like you to do. Here's why I think that's a good idea. How can I follow up with you to make sure you did what I've asked you to do? It's a 2-minute speech, and a few of us are being asked to be the elected officials that people practice on, so that's going to be a really cool opportunity. I'm going to be involved. I think that Jody Serini is going to be asked to be involved as well in that. And so that's going to be a really good night, and encourage people to attend these events that the coalition is putting on. Very high quality and very well attended. And then the other one is that there is a 2-evening book study. The book is called The Testing Charade, and it's by a man named Daniel Koretz, and he has really laid out a very, very well-researched, compelling case against some of the things that were talked about this evening, and just about the debacle that this test, high-stakes testing culture is inflicting on public education. So the evenings for that are February 6th and February 20th. There is a little bit of an ask related to this one. We are asking for co-sponsors of this event, and so on behalf of the coalition, I would like to ask that the board join as a co-sponsor excuse me, of these book studies. And the co-sponsorship really would just entail using our communications avenues to get word out, as we've done with other coalition events in the past when we've done panel discussions and a number of things. I don't think that it's a terribly expensive undertaking. Scott's still here. Scott's eager to get involved in this, I'm sure.
I would suggest you share all that with Dr. Dixon.
Yep,
who
we can
share
get
with
that out.
Scott, and then let's just
Yep.
see how that all pans in. I mean, I think on the premise, it seems like it's a no-brainer, but let's, devil's always in the details.
Absolutely.
Would you guys want us to order the books for you?
I have a copy, so I
Okay.
don't need one.
Need a copy of the book?
I would like a copy of the book.
Okay, we'll order
Yeah, I
that.
would too.
I would love one too as well.
Alrighty.
Max
Yeah, I
Backs
mean, make sure we're
down
all
on Coventry.
getting
Yeah, mm-hmm,
Max Backs down on Coventry
okay,
is a great resource for that.
okay. Okay.
My only comment is that we've got high school teacher conferences on the 20th of February, so there may be a conflict for some of us.
At the high school teacher conferences, Ari?
Just saying.
And then we haven't talked about the open houses.
They were amazing.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And, you know, as we talk about increased enrollment and trying to, increase our enrollment, I think that those events were simply fantastic. And I hope that we do a second round in the spring and that those become sort of institutionalized in just who we are and what we do.
At Mary Poppins, I forget which performance, I spoke to somebody who had missed the open houses, and I said, how could you miss the open houses? And then I said, we're going to do it sometime again in the spring, I'll let you know, because, you know, this person is an alum of CHUH and hadn't been in the building, and so I kind of snuck him in to go and look around during intermission.
It was fun being in those buildings.
It really was.
And we don't, although we're going to be in the buildings tomorrow.
But there won't be any kiddies.
Yeah, but seeing kids and families, that's an opportunity that we just need to do more of.
And the opportunity to talk to staff. I mean,
Yeah.
staff was
Yes.
very excited to tell us what they do every day.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
And show us.
yes.
I
and
learned a
show
lot
us.
from the teachers.
I did too.
It's great.
Jim and I were at Noble, and there was a brother and sister, roughly our age, who went to Noble, hadn't been in the building in, I think they said, 40 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the
Wow.
brother lives in University Heights, the sister lived in Shaker.
Yep. And they were just having the time of their lives. It was like they were reliving their elementary
elementary
days.
years.
And it was just such a joy to sort of watch that. It was great.
That's great. That's great.
Good, it was really great. Any other?
No, I forgot to announce tomorrow is PD Day, so
Yes.
yeah, Ed
Yes.
Services, Felicia and her team been working on an absolute marvelous day for the staff. They have a big guest speaker, Tim Wise.
And what time is he speaking?
8:30, I believe.
So we're going to miss him because we're doing the tours with VAA, just saying?
Yeah, but I've sent
Okay.
you get your link to the video.
Oh, okay. But it's not the
Of
same
one
as
of the
being
YouTuber-
there.
Yeah, it's not the
Right,
same
okay.
as being there, so they've been,
Time away from the auditorium.
yes, so they've been working on that, so I want to make sure we mention that. Felicia and the team been working hard and make sure we kick that off.
Thank you.
Yep, so
Yeah.
that's tomorrow. And that speaker, Sandy's been talking about him for years. Finally got the speaker that's gonna be here in the district tomorrow. And I will send you a link to some of his work, Tim Weiss.
Great.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And, oh, I just have to mention that University Heights has its Civic Awards coming up.
Oh, yeah.
That is on November 14th. Unfortunately, I have to miss it because I'm out of town for my business trip. But I want to congratulate Dr. Dixon for being Educator of the Year
Thank you.
from University Heights, so that's exciting. And I wish I could be there, and if anybody else can be there, please go. And if you're from University Heights, you should definitely be there. It's fantastic that they're going to do that.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm excited about
It's
that.
nice to see
Yep.
that they are bringing those back to life.
Yep.
Career Tech Advocacy Group met a while back now on the 26th of September, and we'll be meeting again on the same night as everything else. I'm sorry, which is the 14th, Wednesday, the 14th of November at 6:30. And there's conversation about wither the advocacy group and how is the search process for a new director of CTE going, things like that. But the really exciting thing, of course, is that there's a career fair happening Thursday, the 15th of November. And in the morning, the students from all 5 school districts in the consortium will be gathering at Heights High to learn about each of the programs. And then the parents are invited to come back with their students in the evening from 6 to 8 so that the kids can show their parents what they're interested in. And hopefully that will help get the parents on board for their students' enthusiasms, whatever enthusiasm each kid has, so.
I've heard good things about Principal Byron's work with CTE, especially having to step in a larger role than he expected to.
Yeah.
I've heard some very good things.
And the job is posted at ESC. We decided to do a different model, and we're posting, we have the job where all 5 districts are contributing to the success and the employment of the consortium director, and Byron would keep being in charge of the high school program specific, which is.
Great.
Yeah.
So the director is going to sit above, so the director is really not our person.
Right.
Not exclusively
Not
ours.
exclusively, yeah.
Got it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, right. So we thought this was a better model, so that person is making sure that the teachers in the entire consortium are the right teachers with the right credentials, and that all of our programs are the right programs, the right credentials. And then our staff person at each building, at each school district, would make sure that their programs are running effectively and efficiently.
Moving on to unfinished business. We talked a fair amount about unfinished business
Yeah,
tonight
I think
already.
we hit everything,
New
didn't we?
business. Couple new business items we also spoke about already. Any other things?
The only other new business I'm going to bring up is I know Jesu's holding 2 town hall meetings this week to talk about whether or not to start accepting Ed Choice. I'm planning to attend tomorrow nights, just to at least sit in and hear what's being said.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the other night is?
Thursday.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to the Thursday one, because I'm not going to tomorrow's. I'm just checking my calendar.
All right.
I was afraid I might have put it in wrong. Good.
Yeah, I just think we should at least hear the discussion and have an ear to the ground of what's going on.
And then one last thing, the Bond Accountability Commission is meeting at Rocks Middle tomorrow at 4 o'clock to walk through the construction site, and then we're going to have our official meeting after the walkthrough in the construction manager's trailer that's in the parking lot at Rocks Middle. And we've invited other people to join us. Who is it who we've invited? I'm supposed to remember this. Sorry?
City officials invited to?
Yes,
Yes.
city
Participate.
officials were invited to come, and I don't know who will be showing up, but I'm hoping that,
Wednesday.
I'm sorry, you're right, I'm still in, we meet on Tuesdays, it's only Monday. So Wednesday, the 7th at 4 o'clock. Thank you, George.
Did we invite Cleveland Heights city officials as well? We talked about that at the UH joint meeting. Did we invite CH? Did we think to, it might be.
That might be a really rapid-fire email later tonight, huh?
Well, and we don't necessarily need to do it all at the same time.
No, I don't think we do. I mean, I think if,
Small trailer.
yeah, I mean, I don't. Okay, do we know when the next meeting is with Cleveland Heights officials? Do we have that? I tell you what, let's look at including Cleveland Heights officials when we do our next joint meeting.
Yeah.
Okay?
Perfect.
Okay, any other business, any other announcements, any other committee reports? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely.
Second.
Second. Beverly beat me to it.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.